I believe that there's never an accident in how systems are built. And if you think about the history in our country, our systems were never built for the richness of the diversity that we talk about and live in today. They simply were not built with that in mind. We weren't talking about diversity in the 1800s. And in the early 1900s, we really weren't talking about diversity. So the systems weren't built for that. So when you think about systems of equity and systems that have inclusion woven into the fabric of what they are, you have to really build for that. Those are not accidental initiatives. And so when I think about systems, HR systems, which is what my background is, I think about classification systems. What are we doing from an audit and assessment standpoint to make sure on an annual basis at minimum that we're taking a look at salaries to make sure that that equity is built into how we're compensating people? What are we doing when we look at our demographics in a workforce? Are we short here, high here, low here? What are those attributes that we're seeing in the way that our workforce is even designed? And more importantly, when we finish crossing our T's and dotting our I's about the equity and compensation and what the workforce demographics look like, how are we involving people in the work that we're carrying out in the missions of our organizations and our systems? And that's the inclusion piece. What are we doing with all of the diversity that we have? And are we being very intentional about who shows up, who's sitting at the table, who's making decisions, and who isn't? And have we built that type of consciousness in the work? I can tell you from my experience, organizations that have done this beautifully have built intentionality in all that they do, and they have I call it a prescriptive lens, and this prescriptive lens would mirror what a pair of eyeglasses would do. When you look through them, instead of what our eyeglasses do, when you look through a prescriptive lens, what you're looking for is what's not there. And with the lens of inclusion, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for what isn't there, and that prescriptive lens gives you an asset in determining who needs to be sitting at the table and who needs to be a part of the decision making. So this move to creating a new prescriptive lens is an important piece of building a system of equity, and the inclusion strategies are mandatory in that type of a system.